Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today, I'm talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of Record Store Day Black Friday. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. So over the last week, the Record Store Day Black Friday pricing has started to come out. Now, I will say that, the numbers I talk about or the pricing I talk about in this video might not be exactly what you're going to pay at your local store, but it should be, in the relative ballpark, right around these numbers. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to talk about an album being $25 and you're going to go to your record store. It shouldn't be like $40 at your local record store. It might be, 25, might be 28, but it should be somewhere in that neighborhood. But, I was really shocked by some of these prices, but I think there can still be some great deals to be had for Record Store Day Black Friday. So I guess I'll start off on a positive note and talk about some of the albums I think can be had for a good price on a Record Store Day Black Friday. This first one is Cat Stevens, Saturday Night Live in Tokyo. I think it's kind of a weird title for an album, but it's a live album from June of '74, so it was like right after Buddha and the Chocolate Box was released. This is going to run you about $30. I don't think it's a bad price, especially for a live album. I love that early period from Cat Stevens. You also got Charlie Patton, the Fowler of Delta Blues, selections from Paramount Recordings. There's also RSD exclusive. It's going to run you about $27. Of course, Charlie Patton is one of the godfathers of blues, and you can't go wrong with anything you pick up from him. $27 is not bad, I think, for that release. There's also Garbage Copy Paste coming out, so this is also an RSD exclusive. Actually, I think all the albums I'm going to talk about today are all RSD exclusives. This one's going to run you $30, so this is a covers album, which I didn't really realize when this list first came out. But there's some really cool tracks on here. They're kind of reimagining some classics from Bowie, U2, Velvet Underground, some tracks that you wouldn't really expect Garbage to cover. And then the next one is one I talked about in my hot take video that I did last week. But this is Helmet Betty. It's a 2 LP release, RSD exclusive. There's 25,000 copies it's going to be available, so it should be pretty easy to grab. I think it's going to run you $33 for an album that a lot of people have wanted for a really long time. I think they could have charged probably closer to. I think if they would have charged $38, they probably would have sold just as many of them. So I'm glad to see it a little cheaper than that. The Jazz Dispensary albums are always a great pickup. So you got the Golden Hour coming out. This is going to run you about $28. It's an RSD exclusive. There's 1,500 copies. Like I said, you can't go wrong ever. If you're a jazz fan, these Jazz Dispensary albums are always a good pickup. And then this next one is one that I didn't see when I first went down through the list. This is Jimi Hendrix, Songs for Groovy Children. This is going to run you about $25. There's about 4,500 copies of this going to be available. You can't go wrong with Jimi Hendrix live. I mean, this is recorded Fillmore East, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, 1970. It was mastered by Bernie Grunman. This is going to be a fantastic release. Like I said, this is one I didn't see initially. I'm definitely going to try to grab a copy on Record Store Day Black Friday, though. One release I saw a lot of people talking about, I'm glad to see is going to be on the cheaper side of it, is Modest Mouse, Baron Von Bullshit Rides Again. This is a RSD exclusive, 3,500 copies. It's only $21. I think it's a great price for an album. It's the first time it's ever been available on vinyl. This is another one of those releases where I was kind of expecting it to be at least closer to $30, maybe a little over $30. So it's great to see it's only going to run you around 21. So it's a good price for that one. And then Ramones Greatest Hits is another one I know I'm going to pick up. It's going to run you about $25. There's going to be 5,000 copies. This is going to be available. This is an album that, had it been $35, I probably would have still grabbed a copy of it. Love the Ramones, are one of my favorite bands of all time, but it's nice to see that being a little cheaper, pretty affordable price for anyone who wants to grab a copy. One release that I was kind of expecting to be a lot more than what they're asking for it is Stone Temple Pilots, Purple Rarities. It's only going to run you about $25. There's going to be 3,000 copies. These are all demos from Purple. One of my top 20 or 25 albums of the 90s. Absolutely love this album. As much as I love Core, I think Purple has always been kind of a better album. At least, front to back, I think it is over Core. Even though I love some of the tracks on Core more than I like off of Purple, but it's a great album. I'm really interested to check out those rarities. That's definitely one I'm going to grab on Record Store Day. And then the last one I got on my good list is U2 How to Reassemble an Atomic Bomb. This is one I didn't really notice the first time I went through the list either. But so this is all. So first off, it's going to run you about $33. There's 1,500 copies of this. These are all demos. There's alternate versions, and then there's 5 new tracks from the recording sessions. How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, I think, is probably, at least in my opinion, the last really good U2 album. So I'm definitely interested in checking out those new tracks. And then that kind of brings us to the bad side. So these are albums that, really depend on how much I like them. If I want to pay the price for these, they're not outrageously expensive like some of the stuff I'm going to talk about on the ugly list. But, like I said, these all have to be an album that I really want to grab if I'm going to pay these prices for them. The first one was Daniel Powter DP. I think it's the first time it's ever been available on vinyl, but it's going to run you about $37, which I think for a 1 LP release is a lot for me, even if it's not an album I love. So I think Bad Day is the only song off that album that I even know. So I got that one on the bad list. I've also got Jane's Addiction, Imminent Redemption on here, which initially I thought was I thought there was more to this album than there is, but this is just a 12-inch single. There's only 2 tracks on here, 2,500 copies, $20 isn't bad. But like I said, the reason I've got it on here is because there's only 2 tracks on it, and that kind of bothers me. If you're going to do a 12-inch release, I'm going to talk about some other albums on here also, that if you're going to put out a 12-inch release, put more than just 2 tracks on it. I know there's been a lot of people that are really looking forward to the new Jazz Sabbath album. I've got that on my bad list, though. This is the 1968 tapes, 2,500 copies. $34 is not bad. It is a 1 LP release. I feel like the last couple of Jazz Sabbath releases, if you wait a month or so, you can get them for probably, maybe about $10 cheaper than what it's going to be on Record Store Day Black Friday. So there are kind of cool releases, but I'll see if I can grab a copy of it down the line. It's mainly just the price, I think, that I've got with that album. And then you got Motley Crue Dr. Feelgood box set. So there's 1,500 copies of this. This is 5 7-inch albums in this box set. And this thing is going to run about $80, which I think is way overpriced. I get it. It's they've got a big anniversary that they're doing for this release this year, but by the time Record Store Day Black Friday rolls around, that anniversary copy, the full album is already going to be out. So you can pick up that full album for way less than half the price you're going to pay for this box set. I get, there's kind of a novelty effect to it. But, I think $80, had it been, probably around $50, $55, I probably would have grabbed it for Black Friday. But, being $80 is just way out there for me. The next one I knew was going to be expensive. But the main reason I've got it on my bad list is because it's already available. You can already pick up a copy. And I've seen this for about $10 less than what they're asking for it on Record Store Day. So this is Olivia Rodrigo, Gut Spilled. There's 1,000 copies of this, so I get it. It's going to be super limited. It's going to be hard to get. This thing's going to run you about $46, which I think, is kind of in line for what it was when it was released a month or 2 back. But, 1,000 copies, I guess if you can grab a copy of it, keep it sealed, because I'm sure it's going to be worth a lot more than the $46. But I don't know, because like I said, there's really no difference between this and the version that was released last month, other than this is I think this is in like a purple clear bag that the album comes in. I guess that's something, that kind of separates it from the other release. But, like I said, you can go online and find the release that came out a month ago for about $10 cheaper than what they're asking for it on Black Friday. And then that brings me to Pearl Jam. So I love Pearl Jam. They're one of my favorite bands of all time. They're releasing RSD Song of the Year. There's going to be 4,000 copies of this. This is another one of those 12-inch singles. And, it's going to be $24. It's only 2 tracks, though. And this is off of the Dark Matter tour. If they're going to do this, this is kind of the way I think of this, the release, is if you pick this up on Black Friday, I would not be surprised to see Pearl Jam release some kind of live album within the next year or so that's going to have these songs on there anyway. So I'm not going to pick it up, even though I love Pearl Jam, like I said, one of my favorite bands. I'm going to hold off on this one, even though it's $24. 2 tracks, I just can't pull the trigger on that one. And then you got Too Short Cocktails. This is a 2 LP release, 1,500 copies of this. It's going to be $42. I know rap albums tend to be a little more expensive, but this isn't even the best Too Short album. That's why I got it on the list here. $42 is probably where I think a lot of those rap albums, especially the 90s rap albums, that's never been available on vinyl before. So I kind of get why it's $42, but like I said, there's other Too Short albums I would have long before I would get to Cocktails. And then that brings me down to the ugly side of Record Store Day Black Friday. Some of these prices are just absolutely insane. This first one is one that I know a lot of people are looking forward to this album. People have been talking about this album ever since the list came out last week. This is Better Than Ezra Deluxe. This is an RSD exclusive. There's only 1,500 copies of it. This thing's going to run you about $55, which is way overpriced, I think, in my opinion. It is a 2LP release. A lot of people love this album. Like I said, a lot of people were really excited when this list came out because of this album. But as soon as I saw the $55, it absolutely knocked it right off my list. Especially when you can grab a CD for, probably $6 or $8 at a used record store. Compare that to the $55, I get it. Like I said, a lot of people looking forward to that one, but I just can't do that with it at that price. Then you got Bill Evans Trio live at Consberg 1970. There's 5,500 copies of it. This thing's running about $50. I know these Bill Evans Trio albums always sell well. People really enjoy them. I get all that. But every single year when these albums come out on Record Store Day, I always look at the price and think they're way overpriced. $50 is a lot, I think, for a jazz album, especially a live jazz album. I think there's better Bill Evans albums out there you could pick up for a lot less than the $50 that they're asking for this one. And then there's also a couple of 7-inch singles I've got on the ugly list, and it's not necessarily because of the price. I mean, it is partially. Both of them are going to run you about $25, which I think, is not a lot. But I think it's a lot for a 7-inch single, especially a 7-inch picture disc. There's only, a maximum of 10 minutes worth of music on this, and you're going to pay $25. But you got Bluey Rug Island. There's 4,000 copies of this one. Like I said, this one is geared towards kids. So I think there's a lot of people that are going to pick this album up, or the 7-inch up, to play for their kids. Maybe it's get their kids into records, but like I said, $25 is a lot for a 7-inch. And then Dead or Alive, You Spin Me Round. There's 1,000 copies of it. I get it. It's the 40th anniversary of that great track, but $25, same thing. $25 for a 7-inch single picture disc. If this was half that price, I might consider it because I do love that song, but $25 is a lot for just a 7-inch album, I think. So you can always count on a bunch of soundtracks getting released for Record Store Day and Record Store Day Black Friday. There's 2 that I've got on the ugly list this year. The first one is Gladiator 2 soundtrack. There's 2,000 copies of this. It's going to run you about $46. I believe this is just the score from the movie. This is not there's not songs in Gladiator 2. So this is just the score. I'm not going to buy a score for a movie that I haven't seen yet. I don't know if it's going to come out. I don't think it's out yet. I might be wrong. I'm not really sure. But, still $46 is a lot for a score if it's not, one of the greatest of all times. If it's not like a Star Wars score or something like that. If it's just Gladiator 2, I mean, come on. I think it's a picture disc also, which makes it even worse. And then the second one I got is Lone Survivor. This is 1,000 copies of this. It's only going to run you $36. So this was a Record Store Day Black Friday release back in 2016. So like I said, $36 for this album. You can still pick up that pressing from 2016 I've seen it for $20, $25 in a lot of record stores. I've seen copies as of just like 2 weeks ago when I was at one of my local record stores. They had a copy of it there. So you can already get copies of it. It's been around for a long time. $36, I think that's why it's on the ugly list this year. Then to round out the ugly list, I got 2 live jazz albums. The first one was Charles Tolliver, Music Inc., live at Captain's Cabin. So this is an undiscovered live recording from 1973. I think it's somewhere up in Canada. I don't remember exactly where in Canada it is. This thing's going to run you $50, which is a lot. It's a 2 LP release. $50. I mean, it would have to be, I don't even know if this was a John Coltrane release, if I would pay $50 for a live album. And John Coltrane's my favorite jazz musician of all time. This is one of those albums where, maybe available on streaming or, I'll try to check it out. Maybe I'll try to find something online to listen to parts of it. Maybe it might be worth it, but this is an album where, like I said, $50, it puts it out of my price range. Even if I do love it, there's 1,500 copies of it. I'm sure it's going to sell well, but, Charles is a great jazz musician. I love a lot of the stuff he's worked on. I'm not sure if I've ever listened to any of his music that he's led as a band leader, though. So I don't know. It's one I'll try to read some reviews on. Maybe I'll change my mind once Record Store Day rolls around. And the last one I got on the list is Sun Ra Lights on a Satellite live at the Left Bank, 1978. It's the first time it's ever been available on vinyl. I know Sun Ra stuff sells really well. 2 LP release, 1,500 copies. This is another one that's going to run you $50. And like I said with the last release, it'd have to be something really special for me to drop $50 on not only a live jazz album, I think any live album. I don't think there's any live album I could think of off the top of my head where I'm going to pay $50 to have a copy of it. Maybe like Alice in Chains Unplugged if it got reissued, which I've got a copy of it already. But maybe one of those great Unplugged performances is the only thing I might pay $50 for, but definitely not this one. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Record Store Day Black Friday is coming up. Like I said, I think there is some great albums that can be picked up at a reasonable price on Black Friday. There's some that, like I said, that Better than Ezra. I was really sad to see the price on that one because $55 is just. I think $35 probably would have been more appropriate, but $55 absolutely knocks it off my list. But let me know what you guys think of these prices. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.